guys, welcome again to the Fashion Africa Voices interviews I do every month with amazing designers, really to hear the voices of those who are on the ground doing work in Africa. So if you check out the playlist in the YouTube below, then you'll be able to see all the different interviews we've done already. Some amazing people doing amazing stuff, and I want to bring you another awesome designer who is doing great things in a country that people don't often really talk about, and that's why I really want to share her story and what she's doing. She does so much. It's absolutely remarkable, but you really need to listen to this interview, listen to what she has to say. So I'm Jacqueline Shaw, I'm your African fashion business coach, and what I do is support creative entrepreneurs, designers, retailers as well, and brands who want to source fashion Africa, who want to produce on the ground and who need some support in their sourcing strategies. So I'm your go-to girl to help you to get to your goals, okay? And create that fashion business in Africa. So I'd like to introduce a lovely Margot Risita, who is the founder of a brand called Margot Wong. Margot, do say hello and please introduce yourself, probably better than I have, because I've understated how great you are in what you're doing, but do let us know a bit about your brand and about Burundi.
Hey Jackie, hey everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, you're perfect. Thank you so much for sharing them.
Awesome. So my name is Margot, and I am based in Burundi, East Africa. But I am originally from Guyana in South America. Guyana is also known as a Caribbean country. So I am a Caribbean African woman.
Yes. For the Caribs in the house. But South American. You're a woman of the world in that sense. That's awesome.
Indeed.
So tell us about, please tell us about the brand Margot Wong.
I'm wearing a piece now.
Awesome.
This is from the latest collection. It's called Glorious. By the way, SS20 is called Glorious. Awesome. But Margot Wong, well, basically that was my maiden name. And roughly 20 years ago, I ventured into creating a brand, and believe it or not, a sustainable brand. Back in the day when sustainability and sustainable fashion, ethical fashion were not a thing yet. But my background is basically what encouraged it. My ancestors are from all over the world, but particularly my Amerindian background. And Amerindians, you may know, are the indigenous people of South America. Yeah. And basically, those are the ones who were the first people. So they were there before, the Europeans.
Before Columbus found it, apparently.
Yeah, before them people came. So those people lived innately sustainable lives. So I learned a lot about using materials from the environment, picking up twigs or shells from the beach, and just being creative with the stuff that I could find around me. And it's something that I really love doing from childhood. So naturally, as I found my way as an artist and then as a designer, I naturally flowed into that way of living, because it's a sustainable life in the first place. It's a lifestyle. Absolutely. And that kind of flows into everything you do, and your ethos, and the way I design, the way I conceptualize. And so sustainable fashion is something that's innately within me, and it's been there forever. But in Burundi, I work with cow horn.
Okay.
And brass, recycled brass. And also we've been working with some silver and gold and trying new things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? Can I say, you guys may not realize who's watching right now. So I've known Margot for many years, and
but yeah, I was working, minding my own business with my tie and dye business and making jewelry out of bamboo sticks and things like this. And, you know, people around me would see that, hey, this girl knows how to use a sewing machine. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could do that, you know. And you know how it goes, you know, as a young designer, someone that's new in the business, you want to make money, basically. Yeah. So I would take odd jobs and, you know, making the odd bridal gown or the odd jacket. And then I started to become known for doing those kinds of things. And until I really messed up somebody's dress and I was like, do you know what, girl?
oh,
You know, this is not your thing. Stop it.
that's a hard business. I mean, I did it for about 7-8 years doing bridal wear from coming out of uni. Just fell into it because of friends, and then they told their friends, especially with African weddings. So that's always a big thing, but it is very, very tricky. So what made you then? Okay, but you've moved to Burundi. We know you're based in Burundi now.
Right.
What made you? Well, yeah. So you had a history doing being quite ethical and working with your hands and with raw materials and so forth. But then in starting this business, what made you say, I want to do this kind of business, specifically this jewelry business, working with raw materials?
Right. Well, okay. The background is that I moved to London to pursue, well, I guess to begin the journey of self-discovery, because I grew up in an extended family, and I was used to taking care of my family, my mom, who's had a mental illness since I was a child, and my aging grandparents, who were the ones who brought me up. Yeah. And I came to a real burnout point where I knew that I needed some space just to be Margot for a while. So I went to England, and it was a dream. I worked for Catherine Walker. I don't know if you know who Catherine Walker is.
Yep.
But yeah, she was one of Princess Diana's favorite designers. Yep. And I had the privilege of working as her PA.
Wow.
Her good girl, you know, her run around the block and grab me some leaks, or pay my electricity bills, or write the checks for the salaries, or like.
You've all done a bit of that, my dear.
Yeah. I did it all. But what my favorite part was actually like examining the business and seeing how it was run. I think I found that really inspiring, because in as much as she was so successful and popular and well-known, the business was quite compact, you know. They didn't do like catwalks, and they didn't like go out there on the red carpet and shout, yeah, here we are. Like, they were really, really low key and just focusing on the craft. And that really, really inspired me, because I grew up looking at Miss America and the Grammys, and, you know, I always dreamt about like being out there and being in the spotlight. And then I meet Miss Walker, and she's so calm and quiet and cool and just focusing on her craft. And that really, really inspired me a lot. So moving to Burundi, I came here with the expectation of like pushing my business forward, and I was so excited, people.
Yeah.
I was so excited to be moving home, you know, to be coming to Africa, where I expected to see like the most amazing raw materials and to meet like the most amazing artisans and just to get this thing rolling. But when I came to Burundi, I couldn't find any raw materials. Yeah. And I couldn't find the artisans, like the people I expected and the things I expected to see were just not here. And it was disappointing. Eventually I started to venture out like to the rest of East Africa, kind of looking for materials to work with and people to work with and collab with, and slowly got inspired. I went to Nairobi, I went to Rwanda, I went to Uganda, and just looking for inspiration. And I saw people working with cow horn.
Okay.
And yeah, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Mm-hmm. But I immediately started to imagine like the ideal jewelry that I could make with this horn. And it had a certain aesthetic that I wasn't seeing, like wherever I traveled and I looked, and whichever artisans I found and met and saw their work, the thing that I had in my head, I wasn't seeing it anywhere. So I came back home to Burundi and started this search, looking for someone who could work with cow horn. Hopefully someone who could understand my vision, and we could work together and produce amazing things. You can cut me anytime you have a question, by the way.
No, there's a lot of this that I never knew. So, I mean, it shows the reality of expectations around what Africa has to offer. I say Africa collectively and individually in the countries, but people do go in with expectations or do have this sometimes romanticized view of what Africa is, or a negative view, or whatever it may be, by a preconceived view. And you're just in a country like Burundi, you had the expectation and you couldn't find it. So how did you, so that was one of your major challenges, you couldn't find what you expected. So how did you find it to get started then? How did you get to a place where you are today?
We searched everywhere, basically. So my husband, Simba, he's Burundian. And so he knows the language, and he knew the city and the country, and he started to ask around because I wanted to find out if there were people who actually could work with cow horn. Yeah. Because Burundi, traditionally and historically, Burundians they've placed a very, very high value on cows. You know, for many, many different reasons. One reason being that a cow can actually sustain your life with food and you know, milk. And cows are also seen as friends, but also it's something that signifies beauty. So I know some of my Western friends wouldn't want to hear this, but you know, at like the traditional wedding, a lot of times the families would refer to the bride-to-be as a beautiful cow.
Okay. Yeah, well, you very different.
I know.
Very different meaning that I hear, especially in the UK. Oh dear. Okay, so she's a cow.
I know. Like, there's so many things that you know you would not have considered as beautiful until coming here and actually understanding where it's coming from.
So the
But
maker had that talent, or did you have to work with them to learn how to work with these materials, with the cowboy,
okay, so,
with the brass?
right. So, well, I met my main carver working in the ivory trade,
Okay.
and yeah, he'd been working in for years and years and years, and he was really amazing at his job. But obviously, it was not sustainable income, and many times their workshops would be raided by the police, and some people would get jailed, imprisoned, and get their stock taken away and stuff like that. Someone you can't they couldn't rely on that income to sustain their lives and their families. So the individual that I met, I spoke with him and I said, look, I really want to do this thing, and do you think that you could try to change the material that you're working with? And if you could, then we can work together full time, and then you don't have to worry about where you're gonna get money to feed your family. You wouldn't have to worry about maybe being thrown in jail. We would do some really, really amazing things together, and you can build your life. I can build my life.
Wow.
Because let's face it, I am a working woman, a working mom, an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And in as much as I'm in it for the craft, for me, if the craft is not bringing in the income that I need to sustain my life and to elevate my children, myself, then I need to find another craft. It would be a hobby.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you're raising the importance of doing business, and that's something that resonates with me, especially with African Fashion Guide. Is all about trade with Africa over this kind of aid and, for lack of a better term, the white savior mentality. We're coming in to help and save people, but you're there to do. You're doing business as well. You've got a family, you're a mother, you've got your own life. Plus, you love the craft as well. So you're creative. We get obsessed with the craft a lot of the time as well. So
right.
I love the fact that you had these discussions with him. And so did you start just with him, and then like how many people are you now working with in the production?
So yeah, we started out together, and I quickly added a brass person. And his story is so interesting as well. He during the war, for those who don't know, Burundi went through like a 20-year civil war, and also genocide. A lot of people know about the Rwanda genocide, but there was also a genocide in Burundi at the same time.
Okay.
Yes, and during that period, Augustine, his name is Augustine, he was imprisoned for whatever reasons, wrongfully accused of something. And it was in prison that he taught himself how to work with brass.
Okay.
How to, find scrap metal and kind of work things out. He would make his own little tools and, make jewelry in prison to make a little bit of money. And while in prison, he also taught like a dozen young men to do him work. And when they got out, they started their own business. But unfortunately, there was a lot of jealousy in the group, and they actually planned to kill him.
Ooh, okay. Okay, wasn't expecting that.
I know, just so that they could have the business to themselves, because he was really excellent at what he did. But he was the boss, he was the leader, so he was running things basically. And they were like, you know what? no, we're not having it. So someone shot him and he lived.
Wow, thank God. You were able to work with him. Did you know him? So you just met, you found, or I should say found, you met him and you began to work with him on the brass?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I saw someone wearing brass jewelry and I asked them, where did you get this?
Okay.
And they connected with him.
Mm-hmm.
But his experience really affected the progress of my vision, because initially I intended, for us to not only create jewelry and things, but I planned for us to train a lot of young people in the craft. And because of his bad experience, he was really traumatized about teaching others. Oh,
wow.
So over the years, we've actually worked together on that, and he's actually now training others after 4 years of me pleading with him to share his craft.
It's understandable.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
But I just want to make a note that I know, you mentioned about, wanting to train young people, and it is, as someone said, about that kind of hands up and looking back and bringing up the younger ones as well, because they are the future. But I also know that, you and your husband, I recall the work that you were doing in Burundi for the like the homeless community as well. You're doing a lot of that, and you're not just somebody who you're doing this brand, this business, and cutthroat. You have a bigger vision as well, and you want to do more for the community. Now, I love that about you. I do see it, and I do love that you guys have done this work. And that makes it even clearer, because I have to share with everyone watching as well that you have been, I've got more questions to ask you, but I want to just raise the point about you have been selected as the International Trade Center, the Ethical Fashion Initiative and their business accelerator program.
Yes.
One of the selected. I'm just like, yes, girl. Congrats to you. I was so excited when I saw the email come through. I was like, I know that one, and I know this one. So I was very, very pleased, because I know a lot of the background in what you've been doing, and so I really want to say congratulations. Maybe you can tell those watching just a little bit about that program and the opportunity, how it will raise your name even further than the hard work you've already done. Maybe tell people a little bit about that.
I found myself at a crossroad, and I'm still there, where I've done so well, business-wise, in terms of growing the business from, a little idea,
Wow.
So it's become a global brand. We're not like pulling in the dollars yet, but I trust all of that in its time. But I do have clients and fans like all over the world, and it's a really, really humbling thing. Really, really humbling. I reached a point where I didn't know which road to take at that particular time when I actually applied. I saw their ad looking for designers, and I thought, you know what? I really need someone to hold my hand right now. And it was a really emotional time for me, because, being a visionary is amazing. It's wonderful. Until you come to a point where there's no one around you who can take you to the next level. You've used all your skills, you've used all your resources, and you just don't know what to do next. And I think I found myself in that place. Because the vision I have it's so massive. I see my work.
I know that feeling.
all over the world, and I see myself providing an amazing life for my family, and an amazing life for my communities, and being an inspiration, and all of these wonderful things, but then there's this blockage and it's not letting you move. So what I realized is that I really needed someone to help me understand the true DNA of my business. You know what it is, but when you have outside eyes to look at it and investigate it and to scrutinize what you're doing, then you're able to see more clearly, what it is that you need to do next. I have a plan to sell on, to have an online shop, and there's so many things. So when I applied, I thought, you know what, if they're gonna help me to push my business forward, help me to understand better what I'm doing, help to connect me with other designers and artisans and industry professionals, people who know what needs to be done next. There comes a point when you need that. There's no doubt about it. You need a community. You need a person who's going to hold you by the hand. And that's something that you're doing, Jackie. The way you provide these platforms, where designers can actually reach out to you, and you're so compassionate and so understanding, and you're able to say, do you know what, just wait, I'll help you. And you do it because you have the skills, you have the experience, you have the network, you have the tools, which many of us lack. So I did the application, and then I let it go, and I thought, how many months passed? Maybe 4 months passed, and
wow.
I know.
Just give up, it's gone.
Like, God, what are you going to do, from me? My heart. I need to move forward. And I'm not letting go until I get an answer, And and then just out of the blue, I got this email, congratulations. And I thought, wow, just 4 months of quiet, nothing. And then congratulations, and the next thing I knew,
No, I'm just saying it's really good because we know that there is a thing around Africa, especially the fashion industry, is that there's clusters and there's groups of particular countries and designers which always get spoken about. And but there's so many other countries and people doing amazing stuff that everybody knows about. That's why it's so important to do this interview with you. And so I was glad that with everything else that happened, that you were still able to have a day with us. But we've always heard about the Nigerians, the Ghanaians, the South Africans, the Kenyans, but you'd be like, somebody just said about they didn't even know about Burundi. It's because I knew of your husband, obviously that's why I knew about Burundi. But most people don't. Most people don't. Even Guyana, they'll be like, oh, they mean Ghana? No, Guyana. People get confused. But it's so true. It's we don't really. It's about by you doing what you're doing. You're not just doing a brand which has amazing product. I mean, you guys who are watching, if you haven't seen this product, go on the website, Facebook, Insta, whatever it is. The photography, the shoots, the styling that Margot does, and she has amazing designers. She even does some amazing, models. She even does some of the modeling herself because she is stunningly beautiful, so it makes sense. But you're raising the point of these gorgeous products, but also you're making people question what is Burundi? Where is Burundi? Tell me about Burundi. They'll start to question that. So you're doing so much more than you realize.
I mean, when I travel, so I would go to a trade fair, let's say in New York, and on my on the board in front of my stand, it would say Margot Wong, Burundi, and people would come in just because of the Burundi for two reasons. One, people didn't know, like, okay, where is Burundi? Is that a country? Like, tell us about it, like you said. And two, people would say, oh my gosh, I mean, are people still working? And how can you be producing in Burundi? It's so poor. It's a war country. You know, like, how do you actually do it?
Wow. That's why you have to do what you're doing. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, it is ignorance. We know.
Yeah.
We know it's ignorance, but if people don't travel out to places, people don't come out of their comfort zone, the people who are local don't do things and push the word out, then that ignorance will continue to stay there, you know. So
Right.
you know, I salute you. Congrats on winning that opportunity, and look forward over the months and following years and how things just develop. But let's talk a bit more about the product. So you mentioned about the trade shows. I know you do New York. Which show is that one again that you do? And tell us about any others that you do.
NY Now.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
That's such a great show. Really, I'd really like encourage designers and makers, and you know, to go. Just do whatever you have to do and show up there. Because I learned so much. I spent some money too. But yeah. And you know, flying from Burundi to the US, that's
a little journey.
We need grace for that one.
Which route do you have to take? Is it Dubai, then like France or London, and then over to New York?
Yeah, there are different routes. I've done Nairobi, where the Netherlands, Nairobi, the Netherlands, then New York, or Ethiopia, some other place. Yeah, but there are many routes. But it's like a 30-something hour journey.
Wowza.
Yeah,
but all of this is important. I mean, you're showing that you have to do these things. You cannot. I say to people, you cannot just. You're not going to get it easy. This is business, and this is what you need to do. And you're saying I need to be in front of new markets where there's buyers, where there's people, where there's maybe press and new opportunities. Plus, just to be in New York and just meet new people and so forth. But this is all part of your sales. Which I was going to ask about your sales channels and markets. I know you said you haven't got a website, so how have you been selling so far? Or is it just through people just on Facebook, or how have you been selling?
So well, I do have a store here in Burundi, and I'm usually pretty active on Instagram. And I do respond to inquiries from my website. And I send out newsletters and emails with my catalog and to all of my contacts. And I do lots of artisan markets across the region. I would fly to Kigali, Rwanda, fly to Uganda. I just do whatever I can to put myself out there. As much as possible. I mean, I've shown up at markets and I sold nothing, but I spent, $500 to get there. I've traveled and sold nothing and got sick. There's so much that goes into it, behind the scenes and before the glory, there's so much work. You cannot be faint-hearted. You have to be aggressive, and it's not about being cutthroat, but it's about understanding where you want to go. Yes. And then take the steps necessary to get there.
Those are great lessons. Those are great lessons and great sharings. And I think, you've given us some of the lessons. You've told us some of the challenges. So what are the positives that you found doing business in Burundi, Africa, full into a box again? Because you do travel a lot around different countries. So what's the positives you found about doing business in Africa or from Africa?
Yeah, I think Africa is still very virgin. Yeah. In so many amazing ways. I mean, I've gotten on the bus, on the coach from Burundi to Kampala, Uganda. That's like a 17 to 19-hour journey. And, you know, you learn so much about Africa and Africans. You know, people are so kind and willing to help, just like always ready to assist, and warm and curious. You know, I've had many conversations with amazing people, and I've learned so many different things just sitting on a bus or sitting on a plane or showing up at a market. I've made so many amazing friends. I have like a huge community of artists, friends, photographers, actors, you know, models, designers, like singers. It's just, you know, you attract what you are. And
it's an amazing creative network in Africa, especially the East African community as well. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Really amazing.
But I think here in Burundi, you know, I really believe that we should really learn to place a high value on struggle. And I say that because I've seen myself have to struggle and push through something, and, you know, to get to a point where I'm like, wow, if I didn't sweat, I would not have gotten here. And one example is, you know, coming here and not finding materials. I thought I would have found like bead shops or, you know, some place where I can go and buy beads or materials, and I came here and there was nothing, you know, and I had to really dig deep. Yeah, I had to dig so deep within myself in order to, you know, learn to appreciate what I had in my hand, what was really right there in front of my face that I refused to see because I wanted what I wanted.
Find out what's in my hand. I love it. Go ahead.
Cow, you know, cow horn. It's such an amazing material to work with, you know, and I would not have known that if I had stayed in the UK working with cow, you know, and this is something that I really value about living here, you know, because you know, you are the visionary, and then you are the creator, and you are the producer, and you are the marketing person and the admin person, and you're the builder of the bridge that takes you to the market, and you're the face of your brand, and you have to be everything that is needed to create the brand and to create, you know, the DNA that you want, you know, your brand to have, before you can actually share that and communicate that well with people who are around you, you know, in order to win people over so that they can buy into your vision. So I learned that. I learned to take my time. To be very patient, you know, and to take my time and kind of observe what's around, and then think about it, like, what can I do with this stuff? What amazing thing can I come up with? You know, that can be an amazing thing to look at, but it can also be an amazing thing to use. You know, it can be an amazing thing to inspire someone. It can be an amazing thing to sell so I can send my kids to school. You know, but how can I use what's around me and make myself useful in my community and my environment? And that's something I learned here in Burundi.
Wow, Margot. I think with that said, I think that's a perfect way to end this interview, this initial Q&A with you, because what you really shown, as I was saying, you've shown resilience, you've shown tenacity, you've shown determination, and you've shown that, you know, you've got to kind of think outside the box and be willing to go all the way. And I really, really respect what you've done and how you're now presenting Burundi to the world, and you're having this opportunity. So I thank God for the fact that you've won this competition, or this, yeah, it's a competition, isn't it? Effectively,
Yeah.
accelerated program.
Yeah.
And it is a very inspiring story, and I think I'm glad to be able to now be able to share this story through the channels, and you know, let others hear it and see more about what they can do, because you are you're a very, very unique woman with your heritage and so forth, but you are, and your experiences, but you are, in the sense, an ordinary woman. You're not a Kardashian or something. You're a human, a woman, a mother, a creative who's just said, I'm going to just try it. I'm going to just do it. So that's really
Yeah.
inspiring. For others who want to do similar, they can go ahead and do that. So I want to say thank you. And for those who want to learn a little bit more, you're watching this video on YouTube, do see the links below. Do make sure to just subscribe to this channel. We have the videos every single Thursday coming up, and we do videos, trainings, and video interviews as well with those Fashion Africa voices who are on the ground. If you want to check out some of the links below to some other cool videos, or to download any of our guides, please do that in the links below. Thank you.